Hello. Okay, so we're recording. This is the second attempt at startup horror stories. We had some technical mishaps the first time. I'll probably still upload it at some point just to show you how bad I am at technology, even though I've been trying to run technology companies for about 20 years. I'll get more into my own stories at some point. But yeah, welcome to Startup Horror Stories. Today we have Finney, and the point of the just to I'm not really reiterating because the first attempt at recording didn't work really. The sound was off. So just to explain what it's all about, I want a place where you can where I'm bringing on founders or people that have tried to start a company. It's really tough. Not tough for everyone. Some people just seem to take to it like a duck to water. But I want to go over like startup horror stories about all the failures we've had. So, because across the internet, you just hear hundreds and hundreds of people telling you how wonderful it is. Just start a company. The economy's bad. Just start a company. And this is how I made a million, but you never hear the stories of the grit and the loneliness and the brutality of losing everything and losing your mind of starting a startup, and what lessons we've learned, of course, because that is the important part, that we take those failures and we move on and we try and gain a little something from it every time. With that depressing intro being said, I'd like to introduce you to Finney.
Hi, hi. My name is Finney, and I've been I've been I've been attempting. I've had 3 or 4 attempts now at starting a company, and I've had one attempt that got to the point where it was successful enough to draw income, but all the attempts have, shall we say, not been that successful. Um, so yeah, this is attempt number 4 or 5, depending on how you define it. But yeah,
Yeah,
this is
I'm in the same place. I also couldn't really put a number on it anymore. I know I've tried a lot. I've worked with a lot of startups, tried to do my own startups. I kind of lost count a bit, but I'm probably at 4 or 5 as well, like of my own doing the thing.
okay. Yeah, I mean, like, but that's I think sometimes I think it is um like how to define a startup. Um, Sometimes I think it is a good idea to do that. Like, because it's startup is not the same thing as a small company, but although it is kind of a small company, but it's also not the same thing. It's definitely not a big company. It's definitely not a one-to-one translation between what happens in a big company and and a small company, but it's not a small company either. So sometimes I wonder about that, like the value of like actually having a definition.
Well, I think that the problem is the term startup became quite popular, 10 years ago or whatever. And
Yeah.
everything started being a startup. Every ice cream stand, every restaurant, every tech company, obviously, even medium and large companies started sort of rebranding as a startup. So it's become a little bit lost, the terminology, I think. But I think we know what we mean. It's where it's a scrappy, I've got this idea, I'm gonna try and do it, build it from scratch. That's what I mean.
Right. Yes, yes, yeah. Going from zero to, yep, zero
Yeah.
customers one day, just an idea, and hopefully end up with paying customers. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
the dream, the dream. I mean, it sounds like you actually got quite far. If you can afford to pay yourself based on a startup, that's incredible, to be honest. I mean, I've had loads. In my 20s, I had one where, yeah, I was paying myself, but not, but, that's very rare. That's like most of the time, I didn't manage to get to that point. They just exploded. So, do you want to, instead of, in fact, I don't want to actually start you talking about your success. Let's talk about your failure because that's the point of the channel. So, do you have, do you have, do you have a story in the chamber ready to roll? And we could just, I guess, go with that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So the one I keep going back to, the one that I think if it had worked, it would have the payoff would have been nice, would have been really nice. Um, was the idea was to you know the idea was to essentially build like servers, like servers for people in their homes. So take
Okay.
the web services that they already like using, and then essentially build a server that's they have in their own home, and then after installing it for them, we would maintain it. um, that, that was the hypothesis, that was the
Yeah, it
guess.
sounds nice.
Yeah. And this was maybe this was a long time, this was over 10 years ago.
Okay.
um so the market was a little different back then. It was
Yeah.
a lot more underground, more a lot more like you would have to convince people to, you had to show people why they needed something like that.
Mm.
But i i was going to do it on my own, and then a couple people showed interest in it
Mm.
and decided to join me. um and I think that's where things kind of started to fall apart.
Okay. So
Everybody, yeah.
so what stage of the first of all, I want to ask a couple of things. So what did the servers actually do? Why would what were you telling customers? Why how are you pitching it? How why would they want a server in their house if I'm not a tech savvy person? 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, so 10 years ago, I mean, honestly, my pitch would have just been like, well, it's a lot cooler than if you have to sign up for it on your phone, um, which probably wouldn't have worked. But it would have been things like, well, like privacy concerns, right?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you might not
So
want your email exposed to just whoever wants to look at it.
yeah, that's a long shot, huh? I mean, how did you find yeah, okay. So before I start taking off on a different tangent, I can't imagine many people going for that. Even though it sounds cool, I just can't imagine I don't know anyone that would care enough about their privacy unless you're Jeffrey Epstein affiliated. You know what I mean?
Well, uh, okay. I mean, I hadn't thought about it like that, but I know that right now, like, I know there is someone who he has his own. For years, he was just tinkering with that kind of stuff and just building his own server for
Mm,
himself and just translating the apps he uses on a regular basis. He just like make just find an open source version of it and put it on his own server.
mm.
And I know this because his sister is a friend of mine, and
Yeah,
she told me that his businesses are starting to call him and ask him to come install one for them.
it's cool. That is cool. Yeah, no, it's there's something nice there. There is something cool there. Like if I had a piece of software like Adobe Photoshop on my server and other people could use it, that would be amazing.
Hmm. Yeah. See. Okay. Now that now. Oh.
Hmm.
See, that is a lot. Tell me more about that actually, because Photoshop, like, that's really technical. Um, honestly, I don't know the details of what's going on with his side of it. It's just I'm guessing that at some point, for me, this is my motivation.
Sure.
I'm just I'm guessing that at some point, people are going to be overwhelmed with the apps on their phone,
Okay.
and it's going to be a lot easier for them to access. Like, everybody already has, or most people already have, the apps that they like using and use on a regular basis.
Yeah, and that's diminishing. I mean, people used to use loads of apps. Now they use Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, couple more. That's it.
Right, right. So if they have more control, or I don't I actually, but see, this is where, I mean, I know why I'm attracted to it. I just like to build stuff. I like
Yeah,
to
it's techie. Look, that we're all the same, right? We all love building stuff, but that is the bit that seems like the bit that most people love. That's the problem.
right, and there is a difference between what we like versus what paying customers,
Yeah,
what is attracted
exactly.
to paying
Yeah,
customers.
yeah,
Um,
100%.
and I think this is one thing, one pattern I think where my attempts kind of fail is when I get to the point where I need feedback
Yeah,
from the kind of people who would pay for it.
yeah.
Then it's not. It turns out that finding people like that and having a conversation with them, it's actually it's not that easy. It's
It
not.
ain't easy. It ain't easy. I'll tell you a little anecdote that happened to me this week while it's just off the top of my head. I was trying to film, I had an idea for some TikTok videos that involved publicly asking people a question and filming it. And I thought I was just going to walk into the center of London, which is where I live, and just start asking people. I had like, I was taking a little survey and I wanted to film their, it was like it was literally have taken 3 seconds to film them, and they had to just select a shape on a piece of paper. Don't
Okay.
ask about the actual TikTok idea, but basically they just had to pick a shape on a piece of paper. And I just thought I'd walk into the center of town. I'd say, "Oh, can you just pick a shape? I'm just going to film it for 2 seconds." This proved almost impossible. One guy was willing to pick a shape on camera out of about the 10 people that I asked.
Hmm.
Um, so one woman, she talked to me like I was harassing her. And I just said, I just wanted to pick a shape on the piece of paper. And she was like, I'm trying to eat lunch. Fair enough, but she just had sat down. She wasn't eating the lunch yet. But I realized, and then this other couple, Asian couple, they were trying to avoid me. I was like, I could just be, you just, but yeah, I basically asking for feedback. It's asking something. Yeah, you think it's a small thing, but it's huge. People don't want to. Yeah, sorry. As you were saying, it's just
Yeah. So 100%. It's not like it's not. They at this point, I'm actually willing to admit that it's an art form in and of itself to get people to talk about whatever it is the builder is wants feedback on.
yeah. Yeah.
The-
So at the time you struggled with it or you just avoided asking for feedback?
See, I'm not the type of person who is. I'm open to, like, I don't have problems talking with strangers generally.
Yeah.
Um, so it's more that I struggle with it, with asking directed, pointed questions about, and maybe that's part of the problem. Like, I mean, how do you like with one that I'm working on now. I mean, instead of talking to people directly, I'm just going online and looking on the subreddits that they're on, and then kind of doing a survey like that, like based on what people are already
Yeah.
posting and talking about, determining what direction to build, just based on what
Yeah.
people are
That's
talking
very difficult as well because just looking at raw subreddits, that's very difficult because it's very first of all it's very biased because it's Reddit. And Reddit users do seem to just have a collective way of behaving. Like you can predict Reddit's responses almost. Um, and also people like to say some things online. People don't like to say other things. I find that I find that you've got to go directly to the source. But so you were relying on Reddit.
right now that is what I'm doing.
Okay.
I have, so it's almost like an A/B test. There's a part of it where I am relying on Reddit, and
Mm,
then um, recently I met two people who have the kind of problem that, like, at the heart of what I'm trying to solve, they have the problem. They live
okay.
with it on a daily basis, and so after about like 2 years now, I ran into two people who have the problem.
And this is the server issue, right?
No. So
This is a new thing.
I've yes and no. In a roundabout sort of way, yes, it is the server. It is a server issue.
So the company failed, but it's still you're trying to make it work again in a different kind of incarnation.
Yes, yes. I still
Okay.
think that the guess is valid. I still think that the guess is valid, and so talking to these people will help me determine whether I'm wrong or not.
Mm. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I won't ask you too much about your new hypothesis, new company, because you might not want to share it. A and B, I want to drill down on your failures.
Yeah.
So, so initially, what went catastrophically wrong? You brought these people on board. You you had a business that you were taking money out of. You said,
So that was so I did. There was this is leading up to 2008.
mm,
Um, I was working with two or three of my college friends, and we started a business, and we got to the point where we were actually earning an income. Like all four of us were earning full-time income from the business.
and there was three or four of you.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, from installing servers in consumers' houses.
Well, so we at the time we were what we were doing was building websites for businesses.
Okay.
At the time, web design was actually pretty technical. It's not like there was no Wix, there's no like you needed.
Yeah, this was the good times. This just. I know. I was thinking all about this yesterday, man. When you needed to build a website with HTML and CSS. I mean, it was too good to last. It was too good to last. I,
Those they really were good times. They really were good
good
times. I mean,
times, man. I mean, no competition really from overseas. You could quote a long, nice budget and time and budget for each website. I mean,
see that's what we were different. We did we went to the company. We went overseas.
yeah.
We we went overseas. Built a team. We had three teams, two in Serbia and one in India.
Okay. Okay.
And so that's how we're able to keep the cost of payroll kind of under control.
Nice. So you must have had a lot of clients then.
We were busy. We were busy.
Yeah.
We were busy.
Yeah.
But that failed. That in and of itself failed. But it was from the experience of that the server idea came out of. The server idea was a reaction to the failure of that company. Um,
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
So that was going all right. Then you had someone had a brainwave that they were going to do servers.
It kind of fell apart. We had what happened there was we started to disagree on equity,
Okay.
on who is doing what,
Ooh.
how much equity does that go with.
Oof. That's not fun. And also, I mean, I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but it doesn't in the long run already it's ironic because we know that that company didn't work, that so the equity was irrelevant, right?
Right,
So
right.
yeah. So sorry, so continue. So you were arguing about the equity.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing about it is like, see, that's why it kind of matters because we had already reached a point where we all had equity splits that we were claiming on our taxes and reporting to that we were claiming and reporting on our tax
Okay.
returns. So it wasn't at that point. It wasn't a theoretical like, hey, this company might be worth something. Like no, no, no. We already had a good idea of what the company was already worth.
Yeah.
We already at the point where we had to work with an accountant outside of us to do the accounting,
Mm,
and so like we had a good idea of like what the company was worth, if only because we had to report something to the government about like, well, how much revenue we had.
mm.
um and for a 20 something year old, like a 21-year-old, that was a good place to be at.
It's a great place to be, man, when you're in your 20s and you actually got a company. I was also in a similar place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great place to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Like, and so it was just the problem of coming to some agreement of, well, we've put in 3 years and got
Mm,
to this point. What what direction do we want to go in the future?
mm,
And so it wasn't like, but that's where things got, how do I say, the disagreements came up.
yeah. So there was a misalignment on the vision for the future.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
So so what was how how badly misaligned were they? How different were the visions? How incompatible were they?
so I hesitate to answer this question in detail because I feel like
Sure,
part of it is going to be tooting my own horn.
sure. You're
But
free to toot your own horn.
so there were four of us. One of us took on the role of president because he was the one who had started the company. He
Mm,
was the one who had he it was I mean he had started building websites at like 14 years old. Somebody at church said, "Hey, I'll pay you to build one for my company," and he
mm,
did it. He got paid for it, and more people just kept on coming to him,
mm.
and so he kept on doing that, and that's how he started making good money at 14.
Yeah. Wow.
He,
14.
yeah, and
Damn.
it was enough that like he could pay for college, like, and I don't know if you know anything about like college in the United States, but college, especially private school in the United States, is very expensive.
Okay. So
But
he wasted his money on it sounds like he could have skipped college, but anyway.
oh, oh yeah, he could have, but he
Yeah.
decided to go to college, which is where we met.
Okay, okay.
I, on the other hand, at the time, I thought I was going to go to medical school.
Okay.
But once it became clear that I wouldn't even be able to put in an application, I started looking around and said, okay, well, I need to get a job. I studied public health in college, and so like I wasn't really sure what to do. I thought, okay, well, my family lives in Seattle. I'll try to get a job at Microsoft.
Mm,
Well, he caught wind of that, and it's like, well, if you're so confident you can get a job at Microsoft, why don't you come work at my company as a project manager?
mm.
Um, I didn't know what project management was at the time, but as we talked about it, he was just like, "Oh well, like you'll do fine. It's just a lot of like talking to the clients, making sure that you can translate." My understand, like, it it started out, the offer was be a project manager and
Mm.
shepherd the project from to the finish.
Sure,
But
yeah, yeah.
I got in there and it quickly morphed into strategy.
Okay.
Um, and what I realized was we were building advertising infrastructure for these small businesses. They, they
Interesting.
they had heard about the internet. They wanted to advertise on and be on the internet, but
Mm.
I had to help them understand that, okay, you came to us asking for a website, but it's a lot more than that, than what you're going to need, because the
Yeah.
website
He
alone
sounds
is.
smart, this guy. He sounds smart. He saw because in the early days of the internet, to people knew they had to have a website, but then to get them to do a website and then show them why they need a website to do SEO, that sounds really good. But anyway, sorry, I'm just interrupting. I'm just imagining the dream of actually getting in at that place 10 or 15 years ago would have been so good. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. Um, but so like so we so in the business itself, I was helping clients understand that that just a website alone isn't going to get you what you need. There's all this other stuff that goes
Mm.
with it, and then let us be the company that does it for you.
Yeah.
But then when I zoom out and start talking about the business, the 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 business layer of it,
Yes.
there was one person who was doing. Oh, that's the other thing. So the guy who started the company, he kept on doing sales, and he was serving as president, which meant things like, well, where are we going to be in the future, right? In the next 2 to 3, 5 years, what
Mm.
direction should we head in? And then there's a guy who was supposed to be the numbers guy, the accountant, the financial officer.
Mm.
Um, and then there was one other person who was in charge of just like looking at other technologies and what other technologies were out there and how we could kind of leverage them for our customers or just being aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
But on the business layer, I was also the person trying to make sure that everybody had what they need, tools that they needed.
Sure.
Um, we were distributed, right? Like we were all over the map. So there's some people in Serbia, some people in India, and then four of us in the US.
Mm.
And so just like making sure that time zones aligned, like our work hours across the time zones were a thing.
Yeah.
And so I so this is the crux of the arguments where I felt like I was doing a lot with clients and for the business. Whereas the person with the numbers, all he was doing was writing checks. I mean, he didn't. That's he didn't really care about like, well, are we registered as the right legal structure? That,
Sure.
that, that
Sure.
you know, um, things like taxes. I mean, later on we come to find out that we weren't even we didn't have a business license in the city that we were doing business in,
Okay.
but but he said that we had a business license. He just
Oof.
never went about doing it.
Sure.
Um, and so the disagreement came about where so I put in some money. Like I took my savings and put it into the business.
Mm. Oof.
And in
Why?
exchange,
Why did you do that? Did it
well,
need the money?
I, I mean, I thought that we had something here. I thought that
Okay.
this thing was going to go places.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, I've got. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. Continue with the story. It just reminded me of something familiar. But continue.
okay, but this is one of those where I didn't know about. Like, it's nice to have a partnership agreement. I didn't know what an
Mm.
equity split was. I didn't know a lot of these things. I knew them. I knew them kind of like I knew that they existed and people did them, but I didn't really put in the time to look into it and see how that applied to me. I,
Yeah.
I, I just kind of trusted my friends. I just trusted my friends that like we would work it out, and
Yeah.
um, that turned out to be a mistake.
Yeah. So what was the fallout? What was the so tell us about the juicy bit where everything collapsed and everyone was contemplating exiting the world.
You know, I there was a trip. See, the first 2 years or so, we had never met the teams that we were working with. Other people we're working with in Serbia and in India, we never physically met them. We were just this is the days of Skype. I mean,
Mm,
Skype video chat was bad back then, so it was just like text and some
sure,
phone.
yeah.
But I pushed the idea like, look, like we need to meet them. I didn't have, but they had passports. My two business partners had passports, so they went to Serbia and met them, and they saw for the I think whatever it was they saw, they came back excited about what the future held for the company,
Yeah.
because I think for the first time they had seen how technically the technical capacity of the teams.
Okay.
And so I thought, like, okay, well, this trip happened because I was the one that pushed for it. Maybe this is a good time to bring up the issue of, like, hey, I need more for like a stake in the company, right? At this point, I have
Mm.
1%. I want more,
Yeah.
because I mean, two of you are splitting like 90% of it. Like, I want more, because like I feel like I'm doing more, and they
Yeah.
they just said no, we're not. That's not going to happen.
Mm.
And so for me, it was like literally, it was just in that moment. It was like, okay, well, obviously I made a mistake here, and if I continue to stay here, I'm going to continue making that mistake.
Yes.
So I just bit my tongue, and then start looking around. Like, whenever I would go home to Seattle, or like talk to some people, I'd bring up the idea, hey, I need a job. I'm looking for a job. And
Mm.
so a year later, something clicked, and um, a startup, um, a startup in Seattle. So, a small company. Well, they're a startup. They're in their own rights. They're still around. They hired me on, so that allowed
Okay.
me to quit working with my partners, and move up,
Mm.
and move on. And so I just left town, just packing into a car, and just took a road trip. Used a road trip to unwind a little bit, and just try to figure out, like, what am I gonna do. And so that's kind of it turns out that clients like it when people listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And since nobody was doing it when I left, they so when I left, and this is I'm piecing this together from just conversations I've had with, like, one or two other people I've talked to that still worked at the company when I left.
Mm.
But when I left, like, they had to figure out who's going to meet with clients, who's
Okay.
going to figure out for clients, who's going to do the analysis for clients, like, what do you need, your
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
step. And then their own differences started to show up. The differences between the two partners that stayed started
Okay.
to
It caused tensions in the relationship.
more like the tensions that were already there started to show up, because
Okay.
part
I
of what
see.
I was
Yeah.
doing was absorbing the tension between the two of them, and like, if they were fighting, if they couldn't agree on something, they would come to me, and then I would basically say, okay, this person is right, or let's go with this, or a third complete different option.
Interesting. So it was a very delicate relationship that was actually the backbone of the company. It was a very delicate sort of little spider web of of offsetting tensions and pressure and relying on each other. And you sort of removed that supporting pillar.
See, I didn't realize. That's an interesting way of putting it. There definitely was a web of decisions that had to be made on a regular basis.
Mm.
Um, and yet there were tense moments. I hadn't thought about it like that. When you put it like that, I can't say that I thought about it like that. I was just having the time of my life, man.
But yeah, but then you left in it, and the the what do they call it? The deck of cards, the pyramid
Yeah,
of cards just fell down.
yeah.
What is that called?
Um, the House of Cards.
The house of cards. Yeah, the house of cards fell down. But well, so that was the server business. So that it collapsed after that.
Yeah, yeah. So well, that it was the server business came about. That guess came about from my experience with the web design business. So
Yeah.
so so far, I've told you about the web design business, and it was from what I'd seen there. the
Mm,
experiences I had with clients that made me realize like, oh, there's going to be a need for this. The-
mm.
Um, o- of course, at this time, cloud computing was becoming popular. So,
I have so much nostalgia when you say this kind of stuff.
why is that? Tell me
Because
more.
it just sounds so naive. It sounds like everything was new. There was so much room to just be like, "Have you heard of cloud computing? This can save you money." Yes,
Yeah,
sure. Here's a job. Now it's just like they got it tied up. It's all tied up.
it's that's interesting. Yeah, yeah. Those were. I mean,
It just sounds so innocent. It just sounds so innocent to be able to walk into a company and just be like, "Have you thought about cloud computing?" You know what I mean?
yeah. That's
There's no emerging technology. I mean, maybe AI, but there's no emerging technology. If I walked into any tech company or any company sort of on the adjacent to tech, there's no way I could walk in there today and be like, "Have you heard of technology X? This is going to blow your mind and save you money." That there is no emerging technology like that. Am I wrong?
no, 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 no. You're not. You're not. You're not. Ben. Oh, you just hit on. This is a topic that's you're not wrong. Like other than AI, which is I yeah I have see okay. Do you remember? Did you ever, when you were young, did you ever used to look at the magazines? I used to do this. I used to do this, like the magazines from like the 50s and the 60s, where to talk about like, oh, in the year 2020,
Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
technologies are gonna be there, and I mean it was things like flying cars and
Mm.
like toaster ovens that could do jumping jacks. It seems like you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
but like now what we have is like web services, and that's what people like. That's it. Like that.
I see what
That's
you're saying. Oh, I see what you're saying. All of those exciting visions of the future, like 90% of them have been consolidated by the internet. So, for instance, TV screens that can show you anything going on anywhere in the world. That's YouTube. Uh, you know, music. You can play any song you've ever heard. You can have a million CDs compressed into one tiny thing. That's Spotify. So everything, all these fantastic visions of the future, it just is consolidated into the internet. And now the internet is just not new technology anymore.
right.
There's not much room to be like, yeah. In fact, the internet dwarfs all these other technologies. I mean, I used to be involved in an augmented reality company about 15 years ago. And the
Mm,
problem was with all these flashy new technologies, even to a certain degree, if you think about like the Apple Vision Pro that just came out, like all these things that seem like futuristic visions, they seem like this could be a whole new market that we can introduce. They release it to the public, and we just go, yeah, the internet does it all already. Like, thank you.
yeah, yeah. See, there's too much of a reliance on that. It's like I think as the technology, it's just too much reliance on the internet, and then when the technology is proven to be successful or not successful, well then we'll just go back and try something else on the internet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
Um,
just so accessible. I guess that's the thing with the internet. It's so accessible from your phone, from your watch, from the thing. It's hard to, I don't know. I guess I'm taking this conversation in a different direction now. But yeah, I just feel like I feel like it would be nice if there was some. I just love those times when you could introduce, like I was thinking about Larry Ellison yesterday. You know, some guy was saying to me he used to, how Larry Ellison used to pitch his products to companies. And I was just imagining when Oracle was new, you could go into a company and you could say to the company, "Have you thought of using a database?" And they'd go, "Maybe that is a good idea." I mean, that's how greenfield the whole thing was, ready for you could any I guess it's easy in hindsight to be like, oh, that was obvious, but it was ready to be dominated, and there's just so much opportunity there, and that yeah, there
But
maybe is opportunity. Someone in 5 years or 10 years is going to look back now to 2026 and go, oh, they were in this time where they could have just done any AI thing, uh, and it would have been made millions. We can't. I guess we can't see it because we're in the moment.
but I
Maybe.
mean, maybe, but I still think there is some value to having that conversation about like why is it that some technologies take off and some don't?
I mean, look. It's just like startups. That's why I wanted to do this channel, because I was thinking the other day. There's a million reasons. There's a million and one reasons a startup can fail, but only a few reasons that it might work. And I think it's the same with why a product will succeed or fail, why technology starts or fails. I mean, there's a million reasons it can go wrong, but one of the reasons it can go right is price point and accessibility. And that's why the internet, you can't really defeat it, because it's in the palm of your hand. It, you're paying, everyone's paying for it already, so it's already there.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't have to even, there's zero effort required to do something else. You're already on your phone. There's zero effort required to use the internet, basically.
See, so kind of, if we could go back to that server idea for a while.
Yeah, go for it.
Price, what you just said now about price and accessibility being two key reasons um why technology works, or well, see, why a startup catches on, like why
Mm,
it succeeds.
mm,
I think you know accessibility, part of the problem with accessibility is understanding. If non-tech people don't
yeah.
understand
Yes.
why it matters for their
Yeah.
everyday life, so like how it is introduced to them matters.
Mm. You know
um
what I just thought of? I mean, I'm sorry to take you on another tangent, but you were just saying, why do people use the internet? Why did they adopt it? Probably a lot of it was to do with porn, because when you showed people that you can stream pornographic images, a lot of people are probably just like, well, okay, sign me up. And I guess actually, because that would have made them overcome certain obstacles in the early internet. Maybe they would have been like, I want to get that. But like, that could have worked for your server business as well. You could have said, look, we give you porn, and no one will know what you're looking at from the government or something.
See, but you know, I that's that's an interesting angle. I don't I how but there's still the problem of like, okay, like if porn becomes accessible through that technology,
Mm.
um how do people find out? Because it's not like people talk about, like, everybody does it, but people don't want to admit that they do it. So like how does that
Does it spread? How
how,
do you
how
how do you market it, basically?
yeah.
I mean, I mean, the internet was self marketing, I guess, because you just get a few guys on there, they're going to start talking. But I guess with something like servers, it is a little bit more. There's a bit more. Yeah, I guess it's a different one with the porn thing. I mean, I don't know. I do actually know a couple of guys in porn, like running a OnlyFans company, but the marketing is a lot of. I mean, you could do it. You could. I'm sure you could do it if you said we have. If you said to people, we have servers with 500 gigabytes of porn on there. This is more porn than you'll ever watch in 5 lifetimes, and it could be popular in the UK as well, because the UK now has laws. Do you know about the UK's laws with porn?
Is it the identity, like,
Yes, exactly.
okay.
Exactly. So now you've got to give your identity if you want to look at porn, which obviously is Is
No.
off-putting. Yeah.
Yeah.
if you're sitting down to engage in a pornographic session, the last thing you want to do is like start uploading a passport photo. That is, it's just, yeah. But if you, I guess if you said to guys in the UK, look, we have these boxes with 500 gigabytes of porn and stuff, and you just basically, we just send it to you, and you just turn it on in your house, and your computer will stream it if it's on. And if you don't want anyone to know about it, you just turn it off, and it will be like it never exists. So you can even hide it in your house, and
Yeah.
no one will even know your browser history, maybe something like that. I don't know.
See, that's the kind of um that's the kind of so talking about like in my evolution as an entrepreneur,
Mm,
I'm starting to do this where I'm trying to be more systematic and structured
yeah,
about how I work on ideas.
yeah,
A lot of the ideas I worked on in the past just had to be like, oh, that seemed like a good idea, or like, oh, that would improve my life. I bet there's
yeah,
other people who would benefit from this.
yes,
But what you just laid out, like this is exactly what I'm trying to do now. It's just like, okay, here's my guess, right? Like, here's
yeah,
my guess of like how to of like why this is a problem, and then just laying out what I think, how laying out a as best as I understand, this is how the world currently works. And
yes,
then this is where it becomes tricky. Finding people who are willing to talk to me about that problem.
yeah, yeah. I know 100%, 100% that that is a very, that is a very crucial phase to try and master. I guess. I mean, I also, and they're all, and the problem is, I am a serial idea. I get excited by new ideas, and just like you said, the problem is I'll come up with an idea like server porn or something, and the truth is I wouldn't use that product. It sounds like an idea. It sounds like a company, but you know, if I wouldn't use it, I couldn't even ask people if they want it. And the truth is, you're right. The distribution's not there. I doubt, probably if you ask people, you'd find it very hard to find anyone that would say, yes, I want it. So the truth is, as you're saying, it's a huge gulf between a nice idea, a nice sounding idea,
Yeah.
and something, and actually asking people. And even if you ask them, sometimes people will say, oh, yeah, it sounds like a nice idea. But you have to say to them, how much would you pay for it? And if they say yes, then it is. I find a lot of people even say it's a nice idea, but yeah, people, it's very difficult to try and come up with an idea. And because look, here's the thing. I know I'm going on a different. Here's the thing. This is my wild idea. This is something I've been thinking a lot about in the last few months.
Okay.
I don't think people even really need that much stuff in their lives anymore. So I'm always, I always hear people saying, set up a company, make a company. You just need an idea. I mean, when I look at my own life, I buy my food in the supermarket. I I try and pay some of my bills. I wake up, I go to sleep, I eat the food, and I watch some YouTube or something, and I do some work. There is no point in there that I can even optimize that or make, what I mean. And I think most people these days, because of the economy, like how how can how can 100,000 businesses start up that add to that experience? I don't think they can. The consumer life is so simplified now. Like, what other gadgets and what other softwares do I need to just buy my food, watch YouTube videos, and go to sleep? That's it.
Huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So what could possibly be there? Like what could possibly be an addition? Like what addition could be offered that makes that experience more palatable, or I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. Like, yeah, more efficient, easier, more pleasurable.
you know that's interesting because this is maybe this is an observation that might be on the other side to this. I've noticed that at least with Y Combinator, at some point in the last like 5 to 7 years,
Mm.
tone shifted from startups that are either that benefit other businesses or benefit consumers. Now there's a shift towards like just start something and sell it to government agencies.
Really? That's where you've seen the shift in YC?
It's something I've noticed. Yeah, it's
And
almost as if like the opportunities with consumers and other businesses has been tapped out, and so
yeah, I
they
think so. Yeah.
to government. Yeah,
Interesting. So they see the opportunity now with government because I honestly see it that way though because like we had Uber for cars getting around, you had Deliveroo and stuff for the various different delivery apps for food. You got yeah, but once you've done those basic essential things, yeah, it just and I think one of the huge problems we have in the modern world is Amazon. I mean, England, they used to call England in the 20th century a nation of shopkeepers. Now, Amazon has replaced all shopkeepers essentially, and even all the manufacturing goes to China. And that in itself, just that one company, that
yeah.
has that has taken away the opportunity of 1,000 businesses is now just being consumed by that one business. Because how can you make shopping more efficient when when Amazon owns the whole thing? Because even if Amazon has features within it that's inefficient, you can't I can't introduce a competitor and I say like, oh well, this improves on Amazon in this one way
Yeah, no,
because
they'll eat you alive. They'll eat you
yeah,
alive.
you'll be dead before you open your mouth.
Yeah, you. That's. I mean, it's a real concern. Like, I mean, there are. It's a lot harder to start a small company these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah,
Eh,
because I just don't think there's the appetite for it. And I'll tell you what else. I was watching TikTok this morning,
yeah,
and sometimes on TikTok you see someone saying, "I made £10,000 out of TikTok shop. I made £100,000 out of TikTok shop," and I was looking at what they were selling on TikTok shop, and it was like vacuum cleaner. It was like a vacuum cleaner, some other kind of household products, and I thought, who the hell is going on TikTok? And some influencer says, this vacuum cleaner is good. So I buy the vacuum cleaner on TikTok. Even if they said, I like this vacuum cleaner, it's very good, I would then go on to Amazon, look to see if they've got the vacuum cleaner, and then look at five competitors to see if they've got a better rating. I mean, who the hell would buy something on TikTok more than for more than $10 based on
right.
just an influencer. Why would and what the influencers saying this one cleans my house really well? Yeah, that's the one that they got the deal with, the UGC deal with. I mean, why would they say a different? So it's a completely biased opinion. Who the hell would buy a vacuum cleaner off? That's what I'm saying. You would just once again, even if they advertise it, you would still go to Amazon.
Yeah, yeah. See, but so I mean, that's interesting because see, when I was growing up, one of the worst ways to start a startup is to start a company that requires the survival of another, that relies on the
Okay,
survival of another company.
sure.
So you don't want to start a business um, because hey, Twitter is doing this, and like I plug into Twitter, and for as long as Twitter is up and running, like I'm distributing through Twitter, like right, like primary distribution or finding the market is on Twitter, right?
Okay.
It makes it a lot harder because what the problem with that is for the short term it might work, but all that has to happen is Twitter changes their mind about some policy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that can turn you off. Like, and,
Yes.
and that's one of the problems with like the influencer economy.
Yeah.
You have to have TikTok or Instagram. You, otherwise, and it's not as if they don't pay. They pay well. They
Yeah.
pay well, but the incentive, they at the same time they turn off the incentive to build something, to have something.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I also think that TikTok and YouTube, and I mean that's partially why I'm doing YouTube, right? I think that the new tech space is, in a way, I mean, people have been saying this for 10 years. I should have listened, to be honest. But like the tech space is social media now. Because think about it, 10 years ago, instead of making a podcast show called Startup Horror Stories,
Yeah,
10 years ago, maybe I would have made a website or or a little network or an app that says, how to run your startup well, you know, and the app could have helped you tick through to-do lists for your startup and listen to videos of people who've done it before and get consultation. I don't know, all these different things. But these days, that has been replaced by the accessibility of social media, because then you can look up 100 social media videos about, like, well, what could go wrong with the startup. It's like, I feel that in some ways social media has eaten the app space, and because people don't want to download an app. If you say, like, it's like, when you go to park somewhere, if you drive and you park in a new place and they say you've got to download this app and it's not the same app that you've been using, you're like, oh, just that one moment of pain of having to download a new app. So
yeah,
so that just shows, like, if you put a startup together and you're making apps, people do not want to download your app. Like, if they can get some of that information or the thing from social media, I'll click on a link. I'll
yeah.
ask. They don't want your product. They don't want it. I don't want a new product.
I agree with you. I think it's not so much that they don't want the new thing. It's just they already have so many accounts and so many
Yes.
apps
Yeah.
that. But you're right. You're right. It's like the game, the availability, the market is either social media, or if you have to do an app, there's a lot of things that have to go right. They have to go your way for your app to succeed. And
Yeah.
you can't, like, the days of just like make one app, upload
Yeah.
it to the app store, and just like, get found through search or something like
Yeah.
that, where people are searching for it, and
It's
then
over. That's done. It's done.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those days are yeah, there's a lot of there's and the funny thing about that too with the apps is there's really only like two major app marketplaces, right? Like it's Apple's marketplace and Android.
Mm.
But they have such a lock on the accessibility problem. Really is the accessibility problem, right? Like they control accessibility. They control whether people. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, if they show your app on the App Store or they list it down badly, that's it. You're right. There's so many ways that your app can die. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's like a million ways for a startup to fail and only a few to succeed. I mean, one of the massive failures is, you're right. If you're exclusive to iOS or something and they don't list it at the top, or they list it under your competitor, it's over.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I really don't know what the answer to that question is. But in a lot of ways, like so that's why social media and making contents, making media products
Mm,
starts to make sense and become attractive, right? Because like
yeah.
you can go on YouTube, you can put something on Daily Motion.
Mm,
Like you don't need the chances of a YouTube channel being found by somebody who's watching YouTube is a lot higher than the chances of somebody being like putting an app on the App Store and it's taking off,
yeah.
right? Like
I mean, there's still definitely challenges with the YouTube thing. I mean, I put on it's just we're living in a world where everyone's just desperate to survive. I put a YouTube channel together about half a year ago. It was an AI thing. It was to help you learn languages.
okay,
But I got a lot of hits on the one video, and then just basically the other ones didn't. I didn't get any hits on it. I put Harry Potter on one of them. That got a huge amount of traction. I don't know. I'm still thinking I might go back to this. Go back to that channel at one point. But it's still. No, but I see what you mean. It just in general, it was easier to get people to it. Like
Yeah.
I didn't put any advertising. It just it
So
just got yeah
yeah, people take up on it, and if it solves the problem, they keep coming back,
yeah
and if they and if it doesn't, but I mean, and here's the other thing about that, like people, it's almost as if they want your, at least back then they wanted your app to succeed. So if it wasn't living up to their expectations, they will tell you. they, they
yeah.
will tell you.
That's true. That's true. You're right. Even the feedback was probably a bit more fluid. Now they will just yeah. If an app these days looks a bit crap, which most of them do, um as the money in apps has gone down, the apps also look a lot cheaper. Like some of the new dating apps I tried, they look like trash. But yeah, the idea of actually giving them feedback, I'm like, who cares? This app is not going to last 2 weeks.
So you just move on to the next one, right? Because
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there's a lot already in the marketplace.
yes.
So i I don't know, but this ties back to that problem again of just like, is web applications, is the internet the only game in town?
It's a really good question. Is it the only game in town? I mean, I'm tempted to say yes. I'm tempted to say yes, it is. I
I
mean, as opposed to what? What even would be a competitor? What, like physical goods?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Physical stuff, like physical products. I mean, look, like in the U.S. right now, there's this problem of 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 um of recycling
Yeah.
and garbage. They sold it to us as, hey, do your part to help the planet and recycle stuff, right?
Mm,
But then it turns out that like the infrastructure for recycling is not, there's a lot of stuff that can be recycled, but they are not able to recycle them because
mm,
what infrastructure is just not there yet.
mm.
But if somebody in the apartments who study, let's say they study chemical engineering and they wanted to like get in on the recycling game, I
Yeah.
mean, the overhead involved just to get started, like they could have an idea that would work, but just the overhead that would allow them to just build a prototype,
Yeah.
um, that in and of itself is and then there's the regulations, there's compliance, there's a lot of paperwork
Mm,
that's just like getting out the door makes it really hard. So I mean, I don't know, I think that, I mean, for everyday normal makers
mm.
that are working out of their, like I'm working out of my apartment. I just turned the like dining room area of my apartment into like a small office, and so that's where I work out of.
Mm.
That's for people like me. Like the internet is the only game in town. It
Yeah.
really.
It's the only way a small also, to be honest, if you're a startup kind of guy and you don't have massive VC funds behind you, I mean, of course it's going to be the only game in town because you can get going for zero money as well, build something. I mean, you can't really, unless you're like, you and me. I mean, I don't know your financial situation, but I can't start a biotech startup because I'm not going to be able to bankroll a laboratory. You know what I mean? So, but what I can do is I can spend a week on the computer and create a platform that, does something with property or something. Like, so that's also why why it's the only game in town. Like you can those other fields, those other kind of startup sectors are accessible only if you have previous successes or access to a lot of money. So yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's actually, so you know where I'm at right now. is I've decided, like, the with the attempts I've had in the past, all of them have involved trying to start something with other people.
Yeah,
And so I decided, okay, you know what? That hasn't worked. I'm
yeah.
going to try to start out on my own.
Okay. Because I'm just laughing because I do this all the time. I swear, like every couple of months, someone will come along and I'll be like, you know what? I found the right guy. I'm going to make a startup with him. What I was missing before was the right guy. And I try and set something up, then something seems to go wrong. And then I go, okay, the next one, I'm going to do it on my own. People are the problem. I can't work with people. I'm going to make a startup on my own, have full control, not going to mess this up. And then I do that, and and then either a lonely, bored. It's easy to forget about it when you're doing it on your own because you just got other stuff going in your life, and suddenly this thing evaporates. And then the next month, I'm like, I found this guy. I'm going to make a startup with him. So it's like I just go in this loop.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really don't know what the answer to. I know that, look, it's whether with someone else or solo, it's
Mm,
really hard to. I'm not the kind of person who finds success like this. Like, it doesn't. It's hard to find the successful combination
mm,
that unlocks, like, the, like, oh, hey, this is what I do full time, which to
yeah,
me is like the that's the prize, right? Where it's just like, I'm running my own company. I
yeah.
am
That would be yeah.
myself.
That's the dream. Yeah, yeah,
But it's so hard. It's so hard to find. It's very easy to find people who talk the talk, but then the moment it comes to, like, walking the walk,
yeah,
that's where the problem becomes, like, that's you,
yeah,
it would be nice. It would be nice to know ahead of time, was like, oh, hey, there is no crystal ball that says in 2 to 5 years you will find out that this person, um is more interested in, they they let me put it like, there's most people are interested in the Hollywood version of startups than
yeah.
they in the reality of
Oh
startup.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, you know there's a trade-off there between, like, so, how should I, how do you sift through, how do you sift through, because it really is like, what's that saying, finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's impossible, and no, you're totally right. Because even if they seem good and they're talking the talk, 2 months down the line, when you actually have to start putting the thing together, that's when people fall apart. And I've lost a lot of people like that. We're talk. Recently I was working this experience to me recently. It needs a whole podcast because it was insane. I met this guy in a different country in the Middle East actually, and I took him to London because we were convinced we were going to start an AI startup, talking so much talk, talking so much talk. At one point, the fucker even goes to me, and this was a bit of a red flag. He goes, "Man, I love you like a brother." And I thought, we're trying to start a business here. I've known you for like 3 days. I was like, you're going a bit, it's getting a bit weird. Basically, the guy was smoking too much weed and he got really paranoid and he was like he didn't understand how to set up a company. He just was just he became impossible and got very aggressive. And yeah, basically it was impossible to know. At first it was very nice, easy talking to him, but things change when you put work in front of someone.
Yeah,
Work or money. Suddenly the whole fucking relationship changed.
yeah, yeah. See, so you know exactly what I mean, right? Like, man, that's. I feel like it takes some kind of courage to put your neck on the line like that, right?
Yeah.
So, and I really don't know the answer to that. I just know, I don't know I don't know the answer to the problem. I just know that, like, yeah, it's a lot easier. Like, people want the success without putting in the work.
Yeah. But I think you're approaching it. By the way, I think we should wrap up soon. But what what I want to say is I think you're approaching it right. And I'm starting to. I mean, I don't know. This is where my learning has got up to, but I think they're doing it right because if you bring someone on board and you say, "Listen, what we're going to do is we're going to first of all get feedback. We're going to test the market. We're going to do studying. We're going to, we're going to do research and market research and test. Make that feedback loop of testing the market and see if we've got a product that actually we can create some demand for. That's actually a brilliant way to get rid of the fuckers that don't contribute and don't understand startup. The people that, as you said, have the Hollywood mentality. They don't. They haven't been. You've to understand the testing the market bit. You have to have suffered before, and you have to have suffered enough that you say, right, next time I'm not just going to build the product and pretend it's all good. So I actually think you're approaching it right in order to weed out the bad the bad business partners.
Yeah, well, there's one way to find out. There's one way to find out. Yeah, thank you for that. Like, I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm definitely, I'm going to find out. It's like I'm determined to just like keep going and forget. Because look, worst case scenario, people. I'll talk to 10, 15 people. Like, I'll be able to find 10 to 15 people who will talk to me about it,
Mm,
and most of them will say, yeah, this is not like, I'll, I'm not willing to pay money for this. And then I know they're like, okay, I got
okay.
nothing.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, they will say something like, oh yeah, no, I want this, and I'm willing to wait for this, you know
Yeah.
and
That is the golden. That would. I've heard it. Yeah. Yeah. It's difficult. The market research really is an art form though, because recently I was trying to do a startup that involved fitness tech, like for personal trainers.
okay.
And basically, I thought I was onto absolute. I feel like I'm kind of in the same place with my journey as you are in some ways because I started speaking to personal trainers and I started basically trying to just get their feedback. I'd sat down with maybe three or four, but I saw some of them multiple times. But basically, one of them, he said something. I went back, spent a week thinking about it, came back, talked to some others, and one of them said to me, "Yeah, if you can do that, I would love that. I would buy that today." And suddenly, I was imagining the whole Mark Zuckerberg thing. I was like, I'm going to make this idea. I'm going to be fucking rich.
Yeah.
But then I realized when I spoke to the other guy, he was like, "What the? That's shit." So even if one of them sometimes says, "I love this idea," it's because you're saying to it based on that conversation, based on they told you I want this, and you come back and say, "Well, I've got a solution for you," and they say, "Oh, I love it," but that might also not be a solution for anyone else on the planet, and that's the problem.
Yeah. 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 The problem of whether, like, if you do find a solution to the problem, are there enough people in the world who will pay for it that like
Yeah,
will get you income?
yeah, because if you've solved one person's problem, whoop de doo.
See, but
Yeah,
I feel like that's why it's an art form and not a
yeah.
science. Because yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but let's I'm trying to find out. There's, in fact, there's a guy I'm meeting on I'll probably see him tomorrow or Sunday next week. Of just like,
Yeah.
I, yeah, but I feel like maybe this is a good place to stop at, and then from in a few months when the podcast picks up, or
Yeah.
just, yeah, socially,
You can give
just,
us an update on it.
yeah.
Well, okay. So listen, yeah, we will stop. I'm going to stop in just 1 second. And I just wanted to say, yeah, we'll keep in touch. So if there's any interesting developments, we will, we'll make another podcast. We'll see how this is, we're going to see how this performs. Anyway, I'm going to lock it off now. But stay on the line because I'm just going to stop recording and we can still speak for a second
Okay.
and record.